Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 2 of the Right Angle Podcast. I'm Ewan Petty,
And I'm Timothy Carasols.
and today we have a couple interesting topics to discuss.
So today we're going to be having two main topics. Our first one we're going to start with was a meeting we went to for the Republican National Hispanic Assembly. So this meeting, we got to see a few candidates running for Congress, specifically one, Lorenzo Rios. He was running for the California 21st Congressional District. We think it's a very interesting topic. We have a recording of what they said, and we think that this is very interesting, hopefully to us and hopefully to you guys. Our final topic, though, is going to be biological men in women's sports. So whenever we bring this up, or anyone brings this up for a matter of fact, it's controversial. It's, it's hard to bring up. It kind of chokes your throat. But we do think that it is a pressing and important issue, and we hope that we could bring some light. And there is one specific scenario that we want to bring up to you guys and bring to your attention. So we hope you guys enjoy, and let's get into it.
I want to be remembered for courage for my faith. That would be the most important thing.
All right, so let's get into our first topic. So the meeting that we went to, it was for running candidate Lorenzo Rios. Obviously, as I said, he's running for the California 21st Congressional District. Now, he is running against Congressman Jim Costa, who ran for election in 2024. Ewan, do you know anything about Jim Costa?
So last election cycle in 2024, Congressman Costa won re-election by approximately 10,000 votes, or about 5 percentage points.
Yeah, and this is, very interesting because California usually runs blue. You don't really see a bunch of Republicans, specifically Lorenzo Rios, running in this specific race. You kind of expect it to run blue, and that was kind of one of Lorenzo's key points, was that, we always run blue. Why can't that change? He's tired of us being overlooked, and yeah. So a few key points of Lorenzo in his running was that he was raised in a Hispanic household, and he also advocates for the legal crossing of the border. He stresses that the Central Valley has for far too long had their voice overlooked and that we deserve a voice. When at the meeting, Lorenzo Rios was asked, why should anyone vote for him? And this is what he had to say.
Where right now, my focus is making sure that the San Joaquin voice is not squashed. Right now, everybody thinks that the San Joaquin Valley is where you drive through or you fly over, but you get through it as quickly as possible. This is not the place where your dreams are made. I believe we've got to change that. The valley, where the valley goes, I believe California will. Where California goes, America will go. We can have our golden era for the United States, but that golden era starts with the valley going green and producing not only the greatest vegetables and fruits and the food that feeds the world. We currently feed the world. We need to be able to feed our neighbors as well, right here. We need to bring these prices down. We've got to be able to find the American dream right here. When you live up to your highest version of yourself, God has told us what that looks like. We live up, we light a new candle. I have chosen to light a candle. I'm asking you to light yours. Let us stand together and bring light back into this golden state. And let's turn this around by living our values. Not by talking about them, but by living them. Don't tell me who you are, show me. And don't tell me who you're with, and I'll tell you who you are. It is time for us to take accountability of ourselves. And if you want people to know who you are and what you stand for, don't talk about it. Let them see it. And let them talk about what they saw, because the values are the ones you live. Ladies and gentlemen, America is the greatest nation on earth, and together we can bring light back into darkness. America will continue to be the beacon of hope today and into tomorrow. And I look forward to passing the baton over to you so that torch lights for the future. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Lorenzo Rios is a man dedicated to helping our country and fighting for us in any way it can, and I believe that he is at least worthy of my vote. Ewan, do you have any final thoughts before closing this off?
I think Lorenzo definitely has the right background and the right makeup and the drive to be an excellent congressman for this district.
Definitely. I believe he has showed us not only as a person, but when we were there, he told us about his military background. One of his key points was that he never leaves a man behind, and he said that he wants to bring that theory and mindset to his political career, in that he doesn't want any one of our voices to be underheard and underappreciated.
Most definitely.
We'll close that off, and we believe, if you hear Lorenzo A. Rios and you believe that anything we said was something you stand for, then please look into him and give your vote accordingly. Our next topic is going to be about biological men in women's sports. Now, before we continue, we're going to dive into a topic that might not be suitable for kids or children, so we ask that if you're under the age of 13, please proceed with caution. This topic, it gets a bit strong, and we just don't want to impose something that you might not be wanting to hear. So please proceed with caution. So to get straight into this topic, the topic of biological men in women's sports always had a controversial connotation around it, and this is a big issue that happened in Yoruba Valley. So a civil lawsuit was filed in a federal court against Yoruba Unified School District and California Department of Education for claims of violating students' rights by allowing a transgender athlete to play in women's sports. Now, Ewan, specifically a civil lawsuit that was filed in a federal court, could you give us more insight into that?
So basically, the lawsuit is a civil lawsuit because no one is being charged with the crime, and it is being filed in a federal court due to violations of federal law and the Constitution. The students are suing in hopes of an order granting relief from the current policies and potentially damages.
Yeah, so obviously they're not trying to sue the biological man directly, but this is still a very important lawsuit to them. They're trying to get it shut down. And specifically, claims that students suffered sex discrimination under Title IX and civil rights violations when defendants allowed transgender athlete to compete on track and volleyball teams. This specific lawsuit seeks to stop district from forcing female student athletes to compete with and share locker rooms with a trans athlete identified as AH. Now, they only identified the trans athlete as AH I'm assuming to keep that private, but I do believe that there is some, importance to this. What if a man who isn't transgender just says they're transgender and they want to join a volleyball team? Where do you draw the line on what is allowed? There is so many unknowns here, and even if there isn't, say hypothetically, a man does do that, then now you just have a man in a woman's locker room, and there is a big issue about that.
Most definitely.
There shouldn't be that. And should we say, if someone takes the testosterone suppression, oh, now they're allowed, well, that still brings another issue. Just because they took some suppression doesn't mean that they're fully converted into the ideology of being transgender. There is, a lot of unknowns, and I think that this specifically should be proceeded with caution. There's a lot of unknowns in this specific scenario. But the facts are of this case that at least 6 schools forfeited games against the volleyball team. It's one thing to affect the transgender person specifically. Maybe they see this and now they're sad and they want to quit. But now this is affecting the team as a whole. This is now stopping them from playing. Just imagine the mental this has on all their players. Now they're all thinking that they have a rotten teammate because they can't even play because of this teammate. There is a lot to this. I'm not saying that the women are wrong in that, because they have a right to play. They signed up for the volleyball team.
Definitely.
Yeah, this is what they signed up for, and they should be able to play. But because of one person, they can't now. And putting aside all of the facts, there is an obvious issue. When a coach sees that one person is making it to where the team morale is down, what do? You kick them off the team.
Yep.
Even if this was a guys' league, if there's one bad teammate, the coach has no choice. Their hands are tied. You're not going to infect a team. And mind you, I'm not saying that because they're transgender they're infecting. I'm saying because the whole team morale is now down, that's infecting the team. Now, that this is simply just the facts that 6 schools forfeited the games against the volleyball team. But let's get into more facts about, what this actually is. According to Hilton, E.N., and Lundberg, a study on biological men in women's sports, where men biologically have more muscle mass and strength, naturally allowing them to compete at a higher level. This study itself shows one of the biggest issues. Men are just naturally stronger. Men are naturally competitive. Men are naturally in the zone more. It's just a fact. You have women who do like sports, and I'm not saying that they're not good. I'm simply stating that the facts say the muscle mass and strength that naturally go into a man's body are just too hard to overlook. This now mind you, this is for a man who has not taken any suppression or any of that stuff yet. But even with testosterone suppression, it does not fully eliminate, if at all dissipate, the natural advantage men have in sports.
Or competitive advantage.
Definitely. And I think the key word here is suppression. It doesn't fully remove, it suppresses. Now, I suppose you could say now you're evening the level. Definitely. You are definitely evening it to where maybe it's more on the same playing field. But it's still a fact. An advantage is an advantage. If you're able in basketball to jump a little bit higher than someone, that could be the difference from you getting blocked.
It could also affect your swing distance in golf.
Definitely. There's so many more factors than just testosterone. The muscle mass cannot be overlooked. It is such an important it's such an important thing with talking about, men and women's sports. And I think that we can't overlook that. It is a fact that multiple adaptations of sports have been created, women's leagues, from basketball to tennis. There's other stuff. But specifically in basketball, we hear topics about why we can't combine the NBA and WNBA. Now, these are two different games in my opinion. Now, obviously they're the same inherent game, basketball. But when you see basketball players, you automatically gravitate towards NBA because you have that understanding that it's a bit more competitive in any sense. Obviously, there's games like baseball. Men naturally love baseball. It was specifically at our school that, we'd constantly want to play baseball. And we want to play football, and we want to play basketball. We wanted to get, physical. We wanted to...
And compete.
Definitely, we wanted to compete. And obviously the women had their own, volleyball. They had other stuff that they wanted to do. But the men, we just wanted to, we wanted to show off. We wanted to fight for the top spot. We wanted to do so much more, and we just wanted to do our best. And I think that we can kind of translate that to NBA and WNBA. The men there have done so much. They've given up so much to get to that spot. And not to say that the WNBA is soft. I'm just saying that the fact is that men naturally have that drive to do more and to be more. And I think that we simply just can't overlook some of these differences, specifically in either men or women's sports, and specifically talking about this scenario of biological men in women's sports. It is really something when a man... I think specifically when we look at, these topics of biological men in women's sports, that we should, look at the facts and we can't ignore them. Specifically with this Jurupa High School, what is the team going to do? We have to keep looking at what this team does specifically, because this could really, a lawsuit specifically can change the whole game for everyone. And I think that we will keep you updated. We'll keep researching, see what happens. And we hope that, this comes to the right conclusion, because this team needs to be able to play. And biological men in women's sports is just something that can't happen. It can't. If we start letting men in women's sports, imagine the competitive advantage, the competitive edge that just changes completely. And that is really the beauty of it, is that it's two different leagues. Not and these two different leagues, obviously they don't work together, but as separate entities, they work. Woman playing against woman, that's fun, that's great. It works. Men playing against men, it's great, it's fun, and it works. And that we have to keep that in mind. And, formulate your own opinion on this, look into the facts, and have your own thoughts. That is what we want to stress here. And so, as we close, Ewan, do you have any final words on this topic?
Hopefully, this lawsuit is resolved quickly and in favor of the girls who are suing. The girls need their medals, and men need to stay out of women's sports.
Definitely. And thank you for those final words. As we close, thank you guys all for listening. This was the Right Angle Podcast, and we will see you in the next episode.